Rick Roberts.
All right, welcome to Court of Public Opinion, the Rick Roberts Show. We've been saying for time immemorial, we got to get rid of Nancy Pelosi, Princess Pelosi. I think the luster's off that bloom anyway, even with a lot of Democrats. John Dennis is running against Nancy Pelosi. Ron Paul just endorsed him at CPAC. What does he make of the stories this morning bashing Brown for flipping and helping Democrats? Is more being made of this to take away the shine of what's happened with Brown's election in hopes of stopping the upcoming, call it what it is, the ass whooping the Democrats like Nancy Pelosi are expecting in November by conservatives. With me this morning is John Dennis. Mr. Dennis, good morning.
Rick, the pleasure's mine. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, tell me, and everyone else that's listening this morning, who is John Dennis?
Well, I'm a son of a longshoreman and a city hall clerk. I grew up in a housing project in Jersey City. Co-founded a company. It's known as Human Scale now. It's a maker of office seating and other ergonomic products. It's a $200 million privately held company. Wasn't real politically active until a couple of years ago, where, frankly, I was frustrated with things, including my own party, the Republican Party, of which I've been a member for 25 years. Thought we had a real opportunity that we blew to reduce the size of government in the early part of the last decade. And so I got involved locally, worked on a few campaigns, and was looking for a candidate in this race, this election against Pelosi, who would get up and say the things that all of us want to say, and say them in a way that all of us want to say them to Nancy Pelosi. And so finally I just decided to be that candidate.
And let me ask you, what is it you plan on changing?
Aside from beating Nancy Pelosi?
Yes.
Well, I believe that the Constitution is a great document. I think it's the most elegant, brilliant political document that the country's ever been founded on, and I find it sad that we disregard it. And specifically, when I say we, I mean that the folks in Washington unilaterally disregard it. You know, if you look at the Constitution and look at all the stuff that we're doing now, there's a big disconnect. And I think about 95% of the problems that we face today are because the federal government has disregarded the Constitution. So I think our direction out of this mess is to go back and start following this thing, and not throw away this great thing that we have, which is a government that's supposed to be based on the liberty of the individual. So that's really the fundamental place where I'm coming from.
Well, listen, a lot of people dissatisfied, very dissatisfied with Pelosi, and it's going to be tough because she's got a lot of juice, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. But then there's the reality on the ground, and that's one of the things that's going to be a little different about this campaign. I mean, we are not only diametrically opposed philosophically to Nancy Pelosi. Interestingly enough, Rick, in all of the opposition research that we do, we've never once found an example where Nancy Pelosi talked about defending your individual liberties or protecting the Constitution, which is odd. Anyway, we're building out a real precinct operation. We're campaigning to win, and you might be surprised to know, your listeners might be surprised to learn that there are a lot of votes to win out there, a lot of votes, even amongst Democrats who are really frustrated with Nancy Pelosi. So,
well, John Dennis, as it's been written, could not be more different than Nancy Pelosi. I think that's exactly what people are looking for in both style and substance. And in the shadow of that historic election of Republican Scott Brown in Massachusetts, the message Americans are sending is very clear and resounding call for striking contrast. They want the diametric opposite. If there's any, I don't know of any better example than Barack Obama in the White House. He's not in the White House because of who he is and his political resume. He's in the White House because people were sick and tired, perceived or in reality, of what they thought Bush was all about. That's a prime example. A self-made man, Dennis exemplifies all of the qualities, has earned a solid reputation based on trust, fidelity, exemplary work ethic. And you know what? I think people are looking for that now. People, that hope and change thing, it's like Jason Matera. Jason Matera said, Barack Obama was like any drug that you're addicted to. Yeah, you may feel pretty good at the time when you're getting high, but there's always the hangover when you wake up and go, "What the hell have I done?" I don't think we're going to have that problem with people like my guest. If in fact we can pull this off with John Dennis. John, let me ask you, what are some of the primary goals that you want to accomplish? I mean, I went to high school, played football with a kid. It's not a kid anymore. Finally went to Congress named Steve Largent. Steve's a great guy, stand-up guy, great family man. And even he says, when you get to Washington, the rules are different, the reality is different. You may have the best intentions, but you got to get dirty to get anything done. You may take 4 or 5 showers a day just trying to stay clean, but John Dennis, what do you plan to do? I mean, what are your plans? Give us something to hang on to here.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you want to get done. I mean, I'm not just going to go to Washington to, make legislation to say, hey, I put my name on a bill. I'm so proud of the Ron Paul endorsement because there's a guy, and I know people have their differences with Ron Paul on a number of issues, but if you look at him, here's a guy who's a beacon. He said you can be a constitutional conservative in Washington, D.C. and never compromise. And I shouldn't say maybe not never, but I mean he's never voted for a tax increase. He never voted for an unbalanced budget. He showed that you can follow the Constitution. He's the one guy who is, the 434 to 1 vote, he's the one guy voting no on a lot of stuff. That's, he's my role model, and that's the guy who I would like to, emulate, whose career I'd like to emulate in Washington. The biggest thing that I think we need to start addressing, and I thought the 800-pound gorilla in the room at this Barack Obama State of the Union address was the debt. I mean, he's talking about glancing blows to, the freezing domestic spending. Meanwhile, we need to start lopping off huge chunks of the federal government to start addressing the debt and the unfunded liabilities that are sitting out there. And unless we do, I'm afraid that we're going to stay in this malaise for a very long time, much as we did in the 17-year depression we suffered from 1929 to 46, and in the very same way that the Japanese are dealing with it now. If we don't address this, if we don't stop pretending that the government is going to lead us out of this mess, it's never going to end. So,
couldn't agree more. Absolutely couldn't agree more. John Dennis, if people want more information about your campaign, what they can do to help you help us, how do they go about doing that?
Well, they can go to the most visited campaign website in America. Think of all the big names, all the stars in the political universe, and our campaign site gets more web traffic than anybody else. I'm so amazed by that. It's JohnDennis2010.com.
JohnDennis2010.com. Simple, straightforward, and hitting the mark. John Dennis, I appreciate very much you being with us. 19 minutes after the hour, and of course we'll have the John Dennis up on the website, all that information if you want to get more information. 1-800-760-KFMB, 1-800-760-5362. Your call straight ahead in the court of public opinion.